Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new movie review. And today I'm bringing you a review on The Banshees of Inisherin, of course, the new film directed by Martin McDonagh, which is now out in cinemas in the UK and I think select cinemas in the US. I think it's going to get a sort of long, wide release there over the coming weeks. So this is now out. I've been able to see this at cinema yesterday, which I was very, very excited about seeing. It's not one I didn't actually see any films at the festival this year, as you might tell by Tate only doing a couple of reviews. Obviously, we've not had as much coverage as we normally would. But luckily, most films from the festival seem to be coming out within a month, 6 weeks of the festival happening, which is very strange. So I didn't luckily have to wait too long for this one. But before we get into the film, before we talk about it, please do comment along your thoughts on the Banshees of Inisherin. If you have seen the film, please let me know in the comments what you thought of it. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you enjoy it? Did it make sense to you? Did it work? It's going to be really interesting to read about this over the coming weeks. I certainly think there'll be some audiences that aren't keen on it. I think there'll be some which absolutely love it. I don't think it'll be polarizing, but I want to jump on a limb and say different people from different countries might have different responses to it. I think that's maybe a politer term. So please do get involved. And if you enjoy this video, please do consider hitting the like button. It does help support us. It does let us move forward. And if you like this and a lot of other reviews, please do hit the subscribe button. I mentioned I myself wasn't at the festival this year. There is a playlist with a few films that we covered from it, and there's going to be a lot of other films that were at the London Film Festival. That are going to have reviews on the channel. So if you're a fan of new releases, festival films, we're heading into Oscar season, this might be there in the conversation. Please do consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to find out more about our videos, what else is coming up, there's a lot of things coming up. Consider finding us on our social medias, Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and airbus.com/cinemasavvy, and we have a link to Redbubble in the description below where you can pick up some of that merch. But yes, Banshees of Inisherin. So I think the politest way to kickstart this is me talking about my thoughts on Martin McDonagh. If you're not familiar with him, he is, of course, a very famous playwright, writer, and director. I've actually seen all of his feature-length films. I haven't seen his short film, but if you were curious, he, of course, has done In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and Banshees of Inisherin, which is a pretty incredible streak, if I'm being honest, in terms of wide releases. Very, very niche. I think people are going to either like his work or dislike it. And I think what's amazing is that his films differ so much from the others. Yet, you kind of bring in things like sort of the darker black comedy type stuff, or certain actors jumping in throughout his film. So he's a really fascinating director, and I absolutely love him. I would love to have seen one of his plays, but I've never had the chance to. So if that were to change down on, I would certainly be going there. So if you couldn't tell off that build-up, of course, this is a director I like. So I was very excited to see this film. I think it premiered at Venice. Colin Farrell won Best Actor at Venice as well. And there's been a lot of, I don't want to say the word hype, but there's been a lot of talk about this. And again, sitting down in the cinema yesterday, I did a double bill. I did Black Adam first, get that out of the way, and then it was the main event. And I was surprised by the audience. There was about 40, 50 people, which to me is good for a film where I was expecting there to be maybe 10, 15 Friday night opening day. But I was very excited that there were more people there than I thought. So that's a massive bonus for me. But if I'm just going to give my initial thoughts on this film, I absolutely loved it. I didn't know what to expect going in. The only thing I was gutted about, I'd avoided the trailers. I'd avoided everything about this film until last Tuesday. I did a double bill at a cinema. I saw Amsterdam and Ticket to Paradise because I was in London. I needed to kill some time for an event I was attending. So I didn't really want to watch Amsterdam Truth. It was terrible. You won't get a review on that or Ticket to Paradise, even though I really enjoyed Ticket to Paradise. There's a lot of things happening at the moment. So there's a lot of reviews we've not been able to cover. I remember at the start of the year, on a side tangent, I said we were going to introduce a new series where we're going to go through what we watched each month. That is going to become a thing. It will happen January next year because the OCD wouldn't allow me to start that late in February or March. So, yeah, there's been some really good films this month. Unfortunately, we've not been able to have reviews out for all of them. And again, festival films is about a lot of people saw a lot of films, not myself, obviously. So, yeah, I knew nothing until Tuesday. And of course, I enjoyed the trailer. But I'm glad the trailer didn't really give too much away. It's hard to talk about this kind of film having seen it. Obviously, I'm not going to do spoilers, but this is very much a character piece. We've got, of course, Colin Farrell in the lead role, and of course, Brendan Gleeson. Sort of, they'll submit him as supporting. To me, he's a kind of co-lead. but Brendan Gleeson's playing Calm Doherty, and Colin Farrell is playing Patrick. I'm not going to try and pronounce the Irish surname, if I'm being honest. But it's kind of, again, if you're a fan of In Bruges like me, it's a welcome reunion. And Barry Keoghan, of course, is in this one, the best up-and-coming actors, I think, working at the moment. We've got Kerry Condon in this, who I've not seen him much, who I think was amazing at first glance. But to me, this film, it isn't... I don't want to call it an Irish comedy because that sounds really unfair, but it is set in Ireland. It's set during the Irish Civil War. It's very... I'm not even going to say stereotypical Irish because I don't know the stereotypes enough of that point in time, but it's... To me, it's kind of like the elite of Irish cinema. That's on maybe disrespectful to other actors. I'm going to forget. Obviously, got legends like Daniel Day-Lewis, etc., etc. But it is very much that for me. You can't talk past the performances. The whole film revolves around them. If any of the leads aren't contributing, it wouldn't work. The film wouldn't work. You have to believe that there was a friendship of sort between them. That I can say that. Obviously, if you aren't sure of the plot of the story, essentially Brendan Gleeson's character just at a whim decides that he no longer wants to be friends with Patrick, who's played by Colin Farrell. That is the essence of the story. I'm not going to give anything more away than that. But it's just superb. Talking Colin Farrell first, I think he's had an incredible year. Of course, he was in a supporting role in The Batman. I've not seen After Yang yet, which is meant to be amazing. I've heard a lot of good stuff about that. Another A24 film with a terrible UK release strategy. But Colin Farrell was someone to me, but when I was younger, I knew of him. I think I did Phone Booth when I was too young. I've said that before on the channel. But he's an actor I've always enjoyed, but not one I've really been able to appreciate till I've got older. And I think certainly this year, obviously with the Spielberg series, we did Minority Report as well. He's someone that I've really enjoyed his performances in that, and I think that he is an incredible actor. And if anyone hasn't seen his Hot Wings video, which I do recommend, when he went on that, just hearing him talk about the process, his life, what he thinks about, the world we're in, how intelligent he is. He's a really fascinating individual, and for me, this film is his film. I would be very surprised if he isn't in the conversation for Best Actor at the Oscars next year. I know that he won it in Venice. It's going to be a very interesting Oscars run-in, but I think Colin Farrell is going to be there. He's the glue that holds this film together. We get to see his demise, see him at his best, and I just think it's such a varied performance from him. Even though it's set on a small, island off of Ireland, it's a very small location. It's meant to be like a little village where people know each other, and a lot of the comedy comes from that. And this is me going back to praising Martin McDonagh again, that he just knows how to do that. He knows how to write things, and it's so simple to say, but it's not something that many people can execute well. That you watch films and it just feels like they're talking exposition. Some of my favorite films have roles like that, but in this, I feel like I am there with them. I feel like, yeah, this is a sort of conversation they might have. They're not just talking about what's important. You just spend time with them, and this is what Martin McDonagh's been good at for a lot of his films. I think people always compare him to Tarantino, which I can understand, and I certainly think those two jump out as being some of the best writers of dialogue. And sometimes that dialogue itself is just real conversations that people are having, that they're so good at writing it. We can just sit there and engage and listen with them. Actually, there's a series Andor's been doing that recently as well, which I just want to quickly poke. So I've been loving that, and so many great things do it. And this film really relies on it. If you don't have a good script, the characters won't function, the performances won't be able to get out of them. It all starts and ends with Martin McDonagh, I think, and I think it's another superb entry from him. Now, I'm talking about Brendan Gleeson as well, who a lot of people were talking about before this film came out. A lot of people saying this is career best performance. I've not seen enough of his work to even warrant saying that, if I'm being honest. But I loved him in this too. I think what Martin McDonagh's done is he's took these two actors who we know we've seen in other films, a lot of other films, and whether it's a physical performance or it's a dialogue, what Martin McDonagh almost does, to me at least, he's engineering the characters around the actors. It feels like the actors are on board before the script is done. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of that, if that was the case, but some of the best directors do work around actors in these roles, and I just feel that there was something golden about Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell in this, that when they're just sitting there together at a pub, you're intrinsically listening to them and you're loving what's being said on the screen. And I think Brendan Gleeson is great in this. I don't think he's as good as Colin Farrell, but that does not take anything away. I just think Colin Farrell leads and steals this film for me. And I'm going to give a massive shout out to Kerry Condon who plays Padraig's sister, Siobhan. She's unbelievable in this film. I absolutely loved her in this. One of the more compelling character arcs. Someone that feels very real. Someone that I think a lot of people could reflect and see people from their own families with in a performance like this. And I think she's the emotional glue of the film. I think so much of the film we rely and depend upon her because she's just a wonderful character, and I think the way this role is written as well, it's so different to the other characters in this that she brings that level-headed sense of realism that the film needs. Whether it's putting it contextually into the Civil War, whether it's people, they're in a small town, a small village, looking at the bigger picture elsewhere. Do they need to leave? She's somebody that I think really carries this film, and she elevates any character that's beside her. Barry Keoghan is what I really want to quickly talk about because I love Barry Keoghan. He's amazing. This plays the character Dominic. Not the comic relief because a lot of characters are very funny in this film, but essentially you could argue he's playing like the village idiot of sorts. But actually, I think that's a bit unfair to him. I think he's introduced as that, and he goes on to become one of the most not just important characters in this, but there's a lot of tragedy within his character that I think the film explores in a really brutal way. And I think his relationship with Farrell. I just read it both technically in the Batman film from earlier this year too, but it's great to see Barry Keoghan in this, and this is what I think Martin McDonagh is one of my favorite directors. Granted, this is the 4th film I've seen. There's something about his projects that make me want to just jump in on the spot. The next film he announces, I'll be there. I will see that as soon as I can, as early as I can. And I felt that again with this. That yes, I didn't see it at the festival, but I didn't mind waiting a week. That made it a lot easier for me to choose to wait a week. And I just can't wait to see what comes next for him. So it's a very weird review because I don't want to give anything away, but I want to say, please do support this film. See this film at cinema if you can. It is going to probably be, it's done by Searchlight, here owned by Disney. This will probably be on Disney Plus by the end of December. But I really hope that people get the chance to see this. And if they want to take it upon themselves to see it on the big screen, as I always, at this point, it's like a broken clock, isn't it? That, we want to support cinemas. And there's nothing, better than seeing these smaller independent films going up against blockbusters. These films that are far, far, far superior. Yes, they're not ever going to get the box office that the blockbusters are going to have. But it was great to see, again, from my perspective at least, a bigger audience at the cinema, which I don't normally see full. To have 40, 50 people watch this on the opening weekend, I think it's a really good sign. And I hope others get the chance to do so. I hope word of mouth spreads this. And I feel that this film is going to be a big hit of Oscar season. So it's too early for me to jump on what I'd love to see it nominated for, what I'd love to see it win. But I do think Colin Farrell is in the conversation for best lead. Obviously, I think Austin Butler's in that conversation, and there's another really obvious one I've forgotten. So, yeah, the comment's going to be a bit weird. They're going to be a bit crazy. We're heading into Oscar territory. We're still doing the Steven Spielberg retrospective as well. There's a lot of things happening on the channel. So before we get into that stuff, please do comment your thoughts on the Banshees of Inisherin. If you did see the film, let me know your thoughts on it. Did you like it? Did you not? What worked and maybe what didn't work for you? Did things get too far? And if you have seen, you know what I mean. Did things get too far? So, yes, that is going to do it for today's review. Thank you all for jumping in. If you want to follow us on our social medias, get us on Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to Redbubble in the description below where you can pick up some of our merch. And I'm trying to think what else is coming next. Black Adam. I was talking about a terrible blockbuster. Black Adam review. It's going to be live tomorrow night. Sunday, the 23rd of October, 10 p.m. UK time. We're heading into actually a very busy week that we haven't thought about. We've got House of Dragon coming this Monday. We've got the BFG coming this Tuesday as part of the Steven Spielberg retrospective. We've got Andor on Wednesday. All Quiet on the Western Front on Thursday next week. We've managed to get an early copy of that, but as I said, there's a lot of things happening at the moment, so we're a bit behind it in getting those done. And yeah, we're going to see where the next few months takes us. It's going to be really interesting, and I'm quite excited to see a few of these films. So please do stick around. If you like this video, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. It does mean a lot to us to get your support, help us move forward as we are starting to prepare for 2023. We're almost in November now, and next thing you know, it'll be Christmas. So yes, absolutely from me, thank you for watching. Please see and support this film. This film was incredible, right at the top of my 2022 list so far. And yeah, that'll do it. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.